Hi everyone, how's it going? I'm Bonnie Violet, trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, digital chaplain.
And I'm Pacey, trans mask, non-binary, mental health and recovery advocate.
And welcome to Transjoy Boise, where every story, laugh, and act of joy is a stand for our community.
We uplift bold voices, share real experiences, and celebrate trans lives thriving.
Tune in, connect, and spread the joy because trans joy is
unstoppable.
Yes, awesome.
Yes, it is unstoppable, but today is a little somber.
Challenged.
Yeah. Challenged for sure.
And why is that?
Well, the Supreme Court has made their decision on the Skrmetti case, and we talked about the Skrmetti case months ago.
Yes.
In December,
I
think we had an event for it. And the ruling, their decision was not what we were hoping for.
Yeah. What we anticipated, but not what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
I
was kind of, I don't know. I was up in the air with how optimistic I was because, well, real quick, we could just maybe start with the Skrmetti cases. Yeah, and go back to that. There was a ban on gender-affirming care for minors in Tennessee, and some families there were challenging that, and it went to the Supreme Court, and it was called U.S. versus Skrmetti. And we did an event for that in December, and it takes them a very long time to make their decision. And the decision finally came out today, and they have decided that it is not unconstitutional to ban gender-affirming care for transgender minors, and it's not discriminatory based on sex or transgender status. Right. So the ban is going to stay in effect.
Yes. Yeah. And that's sad, obviously. Yeah. And so I know that this is fairly specific to Tennessee, but it actually means more than that. Do you want to speak to that too?
Yeah, it's basically any state that has a ban like this it's going to just remain in effect. And I don't remember how many states have similar bans, but I believe it's quite a few.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good point. This doesn't affect states that don't have bans. So if you're in a blue state and you're concerned about this doesn't pertain to you yet.
Not as of yet.
Not as of yet.
It could potentially be used as a way for other states to begin to do this sort of thing, or maybe even at a national level. But again, for this is really just talking about the results from a Supreme Court case that was seen or heard back in December. And it basically just says that, nothing's going to change. People at Tennessee has been without access to trans healthcare for young people right now, correct? Yeah, still. So, and we've been experiencing that here in Idaho since last July. So it's almost a year now that young people have. Was it even?
No,
it was before that.
It was 2023. Yeah, and last year in July it was for
adults
on Medicaid.
Yeah. That's right.
So so it won't affect us here because we've already been living with that. But it's really upsetting for me that the Supreme Court has decided that bans such as this that are, so inherently phobic and discriminatory.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously that those are okay. So I worry that this is going to be kind of a green light for other states that have ideas for things like this or are going to start, imposing bans like this because they know that it'll be okay and it'll be backed by the government.
Yeah. I was just watching a video from Aaron,
Aaron Parnas?
It's called Aaron in the...
Oh, Aaron in the Morning?
Yeah, Aaron in the Morning.
I love Aaron. Okay.
And they were talking about the Skrmetti case. And I'll be honest with folks, I'm apprehensive about what to say just because I want to make sure that I'm passing on good information. And I feel like I'm still learning a lot. And so I want to be mindful of that. But my understanding was that she was talking about how it's basically gender dysphoria is what was kind of if you will, attacked. Not the bias was more towards gender dysphoria, the diagnosis, than the individuals. So it's kind of in what she was saying, it's the medication isn't available for gender affirming care for anybody, regardless of their like they don't have to be transgender. They could, you know what I mean? And so because it's all people, it's kind of like she referenced it back when interracial marriage was an issue, and they fought that basically, well, everyone could have access to this, but you know what I mean? Like, and I don't, maybe we can reference it, but I think that's one of the things that we're really wanting to try to like balance too, is like making sure that we're putting out the right information.
Right.
And so we're working closely with the ACLU locally here in Idaho, as well as nationally. We were just in a meeting earlier today with like 500 plus people from all over the country, which was really cool. So folks know that there are a lot of people working hard on this all the way across the country, and Idaho is in that conversation. We're in the rooms and we're part of what is happening as well. So I know sometimes it can feel like Idaho is kind of forgot about or flown over, so to speak. But we are definitely at least in the mix with, I think there was like 47 states or something that we're all working on trying to do some sort of response to what's happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. This is going to have a lot of really damaging consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading some numbers just in like single states, like how many people are going to be affected by this, and it is so many. And I know that, you know, obviously, and we know so many personally, people's mental health is going to just deteriorate at dangerous rates. And I worry about what we're going to be seeing when it comes to like relapsing with suicide. I mean, and these are all consequences that the Supreme Court, they're all well aware that these are going to be happening. But how can we as a community band together and try and help each other through this? Because, you know, even if you are someone who is in a state that isn't going to be affected by this, just knowing that this is the opinion held by the government is deeply damaging.
Yeah, agreed. You know, you might think this is definitely not just like, it's talking about gender affirming care for young people. And obviously they're the most impacted by this, but you know, it's felt throughout the whole community. I've had a number of text messages and calls and things today from people being upset, people being in tears, people checking in on me about like what's going on and how people are responding to everything that's going on, or even somebody who's concerned that their trans partner is going to be impacted in a bigger way. And so, and I know people have been avoiding to talk about it, or, you know what I mean? And so I think that's a big thing, is we're just trying to encourage people to talk about it. I
think it was also, there was an aspect of people had forgotten completely. And I remember
6 months ago.
It was 6 months ago. I know that we've been trying to remind people of it. And even at like the last week's rally, Sarah spoke on this just to kind of remind people, but it has been a really long time. But I know that that's probably also kind of part of the upset today, is just like waking up to this groundbreaking case, and it just feels like it came out of nowhere because it was so long ago.
Exactly. And I think like kind of like what we talked about in our last episode with people who were it's Pride Month, and how people were going to Pride events, and we talked about them becoming more vulnerable to being harmed by things. And I think that's something like we're kind of in our month of like, yay, LGBTQ, and then boom, not young trans people in Tennessee and you know, beyond. And so I think in some ways we're almost, a lot of us I think are even more vulnerable to the impact right now than what we were, say, back in December when this first kind of came into a lot of ours like minds and hearts.
Oh, totally.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Transjoy is resistance. Transjoy is community. Transjoy is here with our weekly social support group. Join us for a welcoming and affirming space where trans, non-binary, and gender diverse individuals can connect, share, and support one another. We will have peer-led discussions, social connection, and mutual support in a space
where you can be heard, celebrated, and uplifted. No RSVP needed, just show up and be you. We'll gather every Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Roots Market. For more info, click on the link in our show notes.
I really didn't know what to expect because, in my heart, I was like, this fucking country is going to say, like they're focusing so hard on erasure at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a part of me that has been, following along with a lot of these cases.
Yeah.
And there was at least one, maybe two Supreme Court cases where they sided with parents.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it with minors, like it comes down to either states' rights or parents' rights.
Right.
And that's like probably really tricky for the court, right? Especially if they're right-leaning. But there's at least one where it was a similar case and they sided with parents' rights. So having that in the back of my mind, I was like, there's a chance that they're going to side with parents. Even if they don't agree with gender affirming care, they don't agree with trans identity, whatever, they're still going to side with parents.
Yeah.
So I was holding out hope just based on that.
Yeah. And like you said, maybe here in Idaho, as far as like today or the next few months, nothing's really going to change. It may impact what we can look forward to planning in the future and how things might look. But at least for right now, we're kind of in the same state that we were. And I think it's important for people to realize, like, Idaho young people have been dealing with this already. Mm-hmm. And they've figured out ways to either get gender affirming care in whatever small amounts, if maybe for some it's just about being able to socially transition and maybe they don't access to medical, or maybe they have moments in which they can exist as trans and others are not. I know many of our young people left, they left and went to other states. And those I think are still options for people, I think, to be really considering in this time is like, what is it that you need or that your loved one needs in this particular moment? And it might be going somewhere else. It also might be there might be other ways that you can get access to gender affirming care or other supports, because I know there are stuff like on national and local levels that you can get connected to, and they can kind of help families troubleshoot how to kind of like deal with this. And some of it might be that I can't transition right now, right? Or I can't have access to things, and then helping people cope with that as well, which is just devastating to me. To think of that, especially it seems that it's just, we live in a time in which that shouldn't be the case. Many of our queer folks, brothers and sisters and ourselves dealt with that as teens and people in high school or living with our parents or even into college, having to hide these parts of ourselves because it wasn't safe, because it wasn't okay. And I'd like to think we're beyond that. We've like enough of us have walked that journey to where the rest of us don't have to go through it. And what this does is it kind of pushes that narrative potentially on a lot more young people than, prior to, of course.
And that, I think that where I'm kind of at today is I'm kind of oscillating between like cautious optimism, right? And just anger.
Doom and anger.
Yeah, because it's just the sense of injustice to me. And just feeling so incredulous at this because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like I made a video about this yesterday where, of course, those attacks in Minnesota on the Democrats, and the guy that was found, like the suspect, he was an avid Trump supporter. And obviously, I mean, we all fucking knew that was going to be coming. But what they're doing now is they're somehow pinning it on trans people. Like Donald Trump Jr. said that the transgender movement is the most violent terrorist group or domestic terrorist group in the world. And just looking at that, you're like, are you fucking crazy? That doesn't make any sense.
It's so far removed from it.
But this is just another example of it. Like you look at these things that are being said and the laws that are taking into effect, and they're so unfair, but they're so big. There's this huge systemic it's beyond us. I can't do shit about it. And I think, of course we can do things on our local level. We can plan events, we can talk to people, but in the scheme of things, that's not going to change fucking anything when it comes to these laws, like at large.
Right.
And that frustration it's debilitating.
Yeah.
Just that rage that comes with that.
Yeah, I can definitely feel like, well, why even why why even fight? Why even fight it? Why even try to move forward anymore? It just yeah, it definitely makes you want to curl up in a ball and
exactly.
and disappear, whether it's just for a moment or whatever. Yeah. And no, I was just gonna say, and that's okay. I think, we need to create space to have that sort of what's the word, disappointment.
Yeah, and grieve.
And grief. Yeah.
Grieve it, because, and we've talked about this in the past, and it's so sad because it feels like every time we talk about grief and, the act of grieving, there's so much more that we're adding to that list.
Yeah.
And it feels like the grief is
it's compounded, right? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of it can add up. You know what I mean? So definitely it could be. I mean, my understanding is, one grief, because I know when I've dealt with loss of, say, a family member or a friend, and then another person dies, and I could be at their funeral and be sad about the other person that had died, because maybe it's the same, or and grief works that way, even in this particular situation as well. And so the big thing is to encourage folks to, there are there's if you're a legal person, or you're somebody who really wants to see it in black and white, and figure it out for yourself, there's a lot of great resources for that. You can check with the ACLU, both locally and nationally. Lambda Legal is also a really great place to get some of that information. Also, there will be a lot of actions taking place all over the country in which folks will have opportunities to, one, probably connect with more of folks who have these more legal or law related questions, as well as lots of opportunity to just kind of be in community and support one another. And we're doing that. We're part of, the planning of doing that here as well, not only in Boise, but also throughout the state. There are other things that are happening as well in Pocatello and Twin Falls. That's as far as we know right now. Who knows, there could be more after today. So where do we want to talk about with this, the events, or the event specifically? Or
I think that we can
keep an eye out for it.
Because we're planning an event this Saturday at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3. We believe at Julia Davis Park. And it's sort of just an unofficial get together where we can just experience community and kind of grieve together. And there's sort of an art project that we're going to be doing that's really symbolic and beautiful. And I think getting us all together will remind us that we're not alone in this, because even knowing that I'm not alone, it feels like it sometimes, and especially with the way that I am, I tend to really isolate and doom scroll, of course, and it just feels like it's so overwhelming. So I think that it's going to be, I would really encourage everyone to come.
And it's very community centered and oriented. So we are going to have probably an opportunity of a panel, or we might have some sort of speaking that happens. A lot of that is still kind of getting developed, but we're creating it more of a community level. So it'd be parents or young people that are talking about their experience with this, not necessarily the legal team, that sort of stuff. That sort of stuff will come down the road, because there's still a lot, this just came out this morning. So there's still a lot of reading and researching and learning that the legal teams will have to really look at in order to kind of begin to really be in a place in which they can answer questions confidently or really know, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So definitely keep an eye out for those as well, because those opportunities will come up, obviously, to where you can read something or maybe watch a video, but we also will be working on having some sort of in-person activity similar to what we did back in December. Because this has been, we've known that the result was going to come out in June for 6 months. So we've been meeting frequently just in anticipation of the decision, so we could get feet on the ground immediately and plan something. So while we've been planning, you can't really, you can only do so much.
You can only do so much until it happens. So I just think it's going to be a good opportunity, because I know there's going to be a lot of a lot of big feelings about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if people watching or listening to this now were following us back in December, but we did a town hall event that was really cool with the ACLU Idaho legal team, and they answered a bunch of questions about the case, and we invited the community to come, particularly parents of transgender kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool. We were able to all interact, do some affirmations, and they were able to get all of their questions answered. And that is still going to happen. Like Bonnie Violet said,
Mm-hmm.
it's just we're trying to kind of prioritize just an opportunity to get together and kind of talk it out.
To kind of be in community, because you know, it is Pride Month, so there's all kinds of things happening. It's into the summer, so a lot of folks are gone on the weekends. There's lots of festivals and activities happening, so a lot of that is also trying to work within, you know, the summer plans that are already out and about. And so that's why things are a little bit more, I don't know if it's even delayed, but just things are created with that in mind of all the things that are happening.
And like one event that's happening this weekend is Hetero Awesome.
Yeah, I would rather spend more time talking about the Queerly Arts Festival, because that's so also happening this weekend.
Yeah, man, what a day. There's so much going on right now. But yeah, the Queerly Arts Festival, that's going to be badass. And we were going to have Muff and Xander on today, but there was some scheduling conflicts.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they're working their asses off to get.
Oh God, yeah. And they had a bunch of stuff coming to the store too. So it's like they've got.
So
I don't know how they're doing it.
I don't know how they're doing it. They just opened a store. They're doing the festival.
Which is
like
so cool. Like,
I'm really excited about them and what they're doing together individually, and Queerly Arts, the store, as well as this festival. I think is going to be really fantastic. I'm planning on going at least Thursday and Friday night. Yeah. But we'll see.
So far, I am going on Thursday because my partner and I are friends with Willow the Wild.
Oh.
And every time she performs, we go.
You go, yeah.
But I would like to go just to be a part of community, and maybe we could do something to just kind of, like we had talked about, just offer maybe some support or information. If we're both going to be there on Thursday.
Yeah. We might, we'll keep an eye out, guys. We'll, and if you ever see us out in public, don't hesitate, like coming up to us, talking to us, saying hello. Yeah. We'd actually like it.
Yeah. And in spite of like how I look, I'm nice and I love talking to people, and it honestly makes my day whenever I'm able to talk to someone about this stuff. Like at Pride, it was so fun. And
I tend to be more of like a wallflower type person.
Yeah.
Especially like in public settings or whatever. If I don't have to be on, so to speak, then I'm just like, I'm cool with just kicking back and just watching what's happening. So if you ever see me kind of in that zone, or I've had people say that like I seem like I'm kind of a bitch because I don't maybe engage, or you didn't come say hello to me. And it was like, I didn't come say hello to you because I was being a bitch. I just was probably nervous, anxious, or I was just kind of like in a whole nother world. I would never intentionally just be like a bitch to anyone.
Yeah. Like the social anxiety, it's a lot.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah. It's huge.
And I think people assume when they see us on like podcasts or, you know, even like emceeing something or whatever, they're gonna be like, oh, you're always outgoing. It's like, no, actually. And it's surprising, or maybe not so surprising, how many people who are in the public eye very much are that way.
Yeah, I get comments on it sometimes.
Yeah,
they just assume that I'm really confident and outgoing, and I'm like, I am the opposite. But
and yet you are too. I mean, not in a way that's like, I think it's in a way. I mean, because you are smart. You know a lot. Like you know what I mean? Like you have reason to have confidence in like who you are and how you show up in the world.
Like likewise, but it's like the anxiety
but there's still
is so. But I think that what are you going to do for self-care today?
Today,
because today has been, like we've talked about it before, where even if it's a good day and you know I'm doing things that I enjoy, my nervous system is still like freaked out, and I feel like today it's even more so because I can distract myself as much as I want, but I am very upset and disturbed like within.
Yeah, I mean, me and my partner, we made a nice we did tuna melts in
That sounds
between
good.
the meetings, and then now the recording of this, which was just nice to sit back, make a meal together and then chill. So that was nice. And then actually, I mean, meeting with you here today, and just we haven't connected like this in a minute.
Yeah,
and so I was looking forward to just getting to be in the same room with you. I know this seems, and it is to some degree, work related ish, but it also like I value our friendship and our connection. And so I don't know, I've been thinking Frida's been out of town for a few days, my roommate. I'm hoping to get to see her. The comedy show workshop is tonight.
Yeah.
I've been going back and forth about whether or not I feel up to doing that. And so I don't know. How about you?
I'm really not sure either.
Yeah.
I want to, like, my knee-jerk response is like, I want cheese fries or nachos. Like, those are my comfort food. Whenever.
Why not?
But I've been eating so much better lately, so maybe. But I don't know. Maybe work on some art. I think that all of this anger, I've got to put it somewhere. So channeling it into art somehow. It feels like all of the phobia is getting so much louder, like not just on a national level with these laws, but even just day-to-day personal interactions with people, like downtown. Like last night, my partner and I had a really weird interaction at the restaurant that we were at, and it's just, it feels like it's constant, and it could just be that I'm looking for it now, but I don't believe that.
I mean, two things can be true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reason for us to have anxiety in public and be worried about those sorts of things. And people are doing shitty things too. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take away from it, but it can be confusing sometimes.
Yeah. I think I'm just fed up and burnt out. And I've talked to a few people that have been talking, about feeling similarly, like with the burnout, like feeling like they can't go and be present at certain things like the protests, rallies, or events, but they're doing their advocacy through their work or whatever. And I'm like, I
had to bounce the 50-51 rally last week, which I was bummed because it was like 4,000 people, which was awesome.
Enormous, yeah.
But I also, like, I just couldn't, I have some personal things going on, and I just kind of had to create some space to sit in that a little bit, and I just didn't have the capacity to show up. I watched it on TikTok, so it was kind of like I was there, but I just didn't feel like I could bring myself to go physically.
It was a lot, like, because it's getting bigger, they're getting more protesters, and there's this little shit child that made me so fucking mad. But then I'm also like, those things they tend to bring out not the worst of me, but parts of me that I am trying to get rid of. So it
probably speaks to the child in you.
Maybe. Maybe, because I was walking around filming a little bit, and right at the front, like behind the statue, so you could see like the whole view of like the courthouse, everything, or the Capitol, there are these two teenagers holding a Make America Great Again flag. And they were there with their dad, as we see a lot, like people bring their children because their kids can't get in trouble. And I wasn't doing anything, and these kids started talking shit to me, and I immediately got mad. And I wasn't talking shit to like the dad or anything, but they were engaging with me, and I was engaging back. And I know that, and the other people that were at the protest were getting way into it with these kids. And I was like, I gotta go away.
Right.
But it's like, they have every right to be there, and they're there to instigate. But I feel like I'm not at a place where I can deal with that shit. And it was not a good time. And then after I left, because I had to leave because I went out of town, it seems like it was just, it got real rowdy. And there were a lot of not great things that happened.
It seemed like there were a lot of mixed, there was a lot happening all at once. And a lot of opinions, and a lot of like just a lot of like conflicting things happening at the same time. Though overall it seemed pretty great. And it was cool, I think, to be part of the bigger picture. At least for me, I think it feels good to be like included in the rest of the country when they're talking about, you know, the rallies and who showed up and showed out and those sorts of things. It was sad to see someone get shot and killed in Salt Lake City. And some of the other things that happened this weekend. But
yeah, I agree. I think that, I don't know what it says about me as a person, but that kid made me so mad, but it really inspired me to completely change my workout plan.
Oh yeah.
And
get even more buff.
I'm not worried about, because I had been cutting and I was trying to lower my body fat percentage so that I could build muscle, but now I'm just like, I just need to get bigger.
Just want to get
just because, and not because I wanted to like fight a child. That's not what I'm trying to say.
We know.
But because I feel like having like a broad back and like a bigger frame, I would be able to pass better, or at least blend in and be more.
Or at least people also be like, I'm not gonna fuck with him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit. But I feel like I would be able to blend in a little bit better. And I hate that that's where we are now, because I've seen other people post about this particular thing where they've been starting to focus more on their body and what they can do to change it, or if they're being unhealthy because of the perception of other people. Yeah,
it's like I think that's one of those things that, like, even early in my transition was like, I identify and see myself more as a queer woman, but there are times I wish I just passed as a cisgender woman because it would be easier. And I wonder how much, like, does that impact you? Do you, like, I don't know, because sometimes I feel like, am I trying or working toward having this look or this aesthetic because it'll be easier for society to consume me, or is it what feels best to me, you know? And I don't think we get to I think those just have to happen. Like, I don't think we get to just decide how we want to look and how we want to present ourselves without thinking about how the world is going to interact with us.
Exactly. And I think things like today, like the Skrmetti case, it's making things worse. And I know that this upcoming legislative session is going to be ruthless. It's going to be a fight. We're all going to be in for a big fight. And I just don't, none of us want that. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of know that that's coming, be fully aware of it, but take time to rest for it and prioritize your mental health, your physical health, get the rest that you need. So that way, when we are fighting, we'll be ready.
Right. Yeah. So I guess kind of in summary a little bit, we want to let you guys know, again, there's going to be more information coming out. As information comes out, ACLU of Idaho is a really great local resource, along with ourselves, Mama Dragons. There'll be some other folks that'll join again. But if you go to ACLU of Idaho, at least, they're a really great, like, main resource. Everything kind of builds from there. As if you're wanting to ensure that you're getting accurate information, you'll probably start hearing, I know I've seen so many trans influencers talking about the case today and everything. And so there's a really good chance you might hear something that might be like, I didn't hear that, or is that true? And I would just encourage you to look into it a little bit more and maybe not take everything at face value, and make sure that because I don't think anyone means any ill will. There's just a lot happening, and we're all doing what we can to try to, like, do something about what is happening and try to do our part. And so I think the other aspect too is, like, just encouraging people to connect with your family, connect with your loved ones. If you're a trans or non-binary person, you might find yourself upset about this or in some sort of feelings or anger or whatever, even if you're not a young person. So I would just be mindful of that and do something for yourself tonight, maybe the next couple of days, whatever you need to do. Get around other trans and non-binary folks. We have a social support group tomorrow night, as well as there's the Queer Festival this weekend. You know, go out to queer events, go out to the places and really let community hug you and hold you. And if you are an ally, check in on your trans and non-binary friends. There's a lot of different ways to do that. There's no right or wrong. There's no one way to show a trans or non-binary person support that you love. So hopefully you know them well enough to know that they're the ones that need you to show up at their house and talk about it, or other people need to be distracted from it, or sometimes you just need to be acknowledged, or sent a hug or whatever. And so I would just encourage you to really think that and recognize that the trans and non-binary community took a blow today, regardless of where we're at and how the actual case is going to impact our day-to-day. And so I think it's just important for us all to recognize that, and to tend to ourselves and to tend to one another.
Absolutely. That's very well said.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's a fight. It's going to continue to be a fight, but we are still surrounded by so much beauty and love. And it's really time to lean into that,
Agreed.
So.
All right. Sounds like an episode.
Sounds like one.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Everyone.
Be well.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Big news, Boise. We're building something incredible. A private community for transjoy Boise is set to launch next month. This is your chance to sign up and get in on the ground floor. We are creating a space for connection, support, and growth, and we are looking for members who want to be a part of something special and professionals passionate about hosting webinars, leading in-person events, moderating discussions, and sharing expertise to enrich the trans community. If this sounds like you or someone you know, don't wait. Fill out our form located in the show notes and help us add value to this vibrant space before we officially open the doors.